My name is Emily, and this is the story of how one simple thing about me, my smile, became both the reason someone said they loved me and the thing they tried to take away. When I look back now, I see all the small moments, like tiny stones on a long road, and I wonder how I walked so far without noticing where I was going. But at the beginning, everything felt soft and bright and full of hope, and I believed that love would always feel kind. I grew up in a quiet town with narrow streets and tall trees that bent toward each other, forming green tunnels in summer. The houses were close, and in the early mornings, you could hear doors closing, kettles whistling, and birds singing above the roofs. My parents were simple people. My mother worked at a small cafe near the train station, and my father worked at a local library. We were not rich, but we had gentle routines and warm evenings. When I was a child, my father often told me, "Emily, you have a smile that makes sad people feel less alone." I never thought much about it back then. I just smiled because it felt natural, like breathing. At school, I was not the most beautiful girl or the smartest one, but people liked me. I was quiet and listened more than I talked. Friends came to me with their problems, sat beside me at lunch, and said they felt calm when I was near. I did not know what I did to make them feel that way. I only tried to be kind and honest. Many times a friend would say, "When you smile, I feel like things will be okay." Their words warmed me, but I never thought my smile was special. It was simply a part of who I was. When I finished school, I did not go far. I stayed in the same town and got a job at a small clothing shop on the corner of the main street. The shop sold modest dresses, soft sweaters, and comfortable shoes. I liked my job because I met many different people every day. I helped older women find dresses that made them feel beautiful. I helped nervous teenagers choose outfits for their first date or their first job interview. I listened to their stories and worries while I folded shirts and hung up coats. Very often, when someone was unsure or shy, I gave them a small smile, and I saw their shoulders relax just a little. My life at that time was simple and peaceful. I would wake up early, drink tea with my mother at the kitchen table, listen to my father talk about a book he was reading, and then walk to work. In the evenings, I read or watched a quiet show or helped my mother cook dinner. There were no big adventures, no dramatic events, but I felt safe, and my heart was light. Everything began to change on a rainy afternoon in early autumn. The sky was gray, and most people hurried past the shop with their umbrellas pulled low. The doorbell above the shop door made a soft sound, and a man stepped inside, shaking raindrops from his dark jacket. He was a little older than me, maybe in his early 30s. He had tired eyes, as if he had seen much of the world, and was no longer surprised by it. At first, he did not look at me. He walked slowly between the racks of clothes, touching the fabric with careful fingers. I greeted him in my usual way, with a gentle, "Hello, can I help you with anything?" and a small, warm smile. He turned his head toward me and froze for a moment. His eyes stayed on my face longer than I expected. Then he smiled back, but his smile was different. It was soft and searching, as if he had found something he did not know he was looking for. "You have a very kind smile," he said quietly. His voice was calm, with a low, steady sound. "I'm sorry, I don't mean to be strange. It's rare these days." I felt my cheeks grow warm. I was used to people commenting on my smile, but the way he said it was different, heavier somehow, almost like a promise or a question. I thanked him softly and asked if he was looking for something special. He told me his name was Daniel and that he was buying a jacket for his sister's birthday. As I showed him different options, we talked about small things, the weather, the town, his work. He had moved there recently for a job at the bank. He said he did not know many people yet. When he left the shop with a neatly wrapped package under his arm, he turned back and said, "I'll come again. It's nice to see a real smile in this world." His words stayed with me. That night, as I brushed my hair before bed, I replayed our conversation in my mind. There was something serious and careful about him. He seemed like someone who had been hurt before, but still wished for something gentle. Over the next weeks, Daniel came back many times. At first, he bought small things, a shirt, a scarf for his mother, a tie for a coworker. Then he began to visit just to talk. He would come in during quiet hours, when the shop was almost empty, and lean against the counter while I folded clothes. He told me about his long days at the bank, the numbers that never ended, the polite but cold smiles of his colleagues. He said talking to me felt like stepping into a warm room after walking in the rain. I listened, as I always did, and my smile came naturally. I liked the way he looked at me when I laughed at his stories. His eyes softened, and the lines on his forehead relaxed. After a while, he asked if I wanted to have coffee with him after my shift. I said yes, a little nervous, but also excited. It felt like the beginning of something hopeful. Our first coffee together was simple. We sat by the window in my mother's cafe, watching people hurry outside. We spoke about our families, our dreams, and our fears. Daniel told me he had grown up in a strict home where emotions were not shown easily. He said he had always been careful with his heart. I told him about my father's gentle wisdom and how he taught me that a smile was never wasted. Daniel listened carefully, his eyes on my face, and said, "Your father was right. Your smile changes the whole room." Slowly, our lives began to weave together. We started meeting after work, walking through the quiet streets, sharing small secrets about our days. He began to pick me up sometimes, waiting outside the shop until I locked the door. My parents were cautious at first, but kind. They invited him to dinner, and he brought flowers for my mother and a book for my father. He was polite, respectful, and calm. My parents liked him, and I felt safe with their approval. For a while, everything felt like a calm, sweet dream. I woke with a soft excitement in my chest, wondering if I would see him that day. When I smiled, it was not only for others now, but also for the thought of him. He told me often how much he loved my smile. He said it was the first thing he noticed, and the thing he loved most about me. I believed him, and it made me happy. But little by little, so slowly I almost did not see it, that same love for my smile began to change into something else. The first time I noticed a small difference was one afternoon at the shop. A young man came in to buy a shirt. He was cheerful and made a joke that made me laugh out loud. As I handed him his receipt, I smiled at him, as I always did with customers. Just then, the door opened and Daniel walked in. I did not see him at first, but when I looked up, he was standing near the door, watching me with a strange expression. Later, when we were alone, Daniel said in a quiet voice, "You were smiling a lot at that man?" I felt surprised. "I smile at everyone," I answered softly. "You know that. It's part of my job, and it's just who I am." He looked away, his jaw tight. "I know," he said. I don't like watching other people enjoy something that feels so special to me." I laughed gently, trying to make the tension lighter. "My smile is not a secret," I said. "It is like sunlight. I don't control where it shines." I thought he would laugh too, but he did not. He stayed quiet, and the silence between us felt heavier than before. After that, Daniel began to ask little questions more often. When we went out for dinner and the waiter smiled at me, Daniel would watch carefully. When I laughed at a story a friend told, he would become quiet and distant. He did not shout or say cruel words. Instead, he made small comments, soft but sharp. "Do you always smile that much with other people?" "You don't smile at me like that anymore." "I wish you would save that smile for me." At first, I thought he only felt insecure, and I tried to reassure him. I told him he was special to me. I gave him extra time and attention. I sent kind messages during the day. But his unease did not disappear. In fact, the more I tried to calm his fears, the more they seemed to grow. One evening, as we walked home under the streetlights, he stopped suddenly and turned to me. His face was serious. "Emily," he said, "do you know what I love most about you?" "My smile?" I answered softly, trying to tease him. "Yes," he said, "your smile. It makes me feel safe. It makes me feel like I matter. But when you give it to everyone, I feel like I am losing something that should be mine." His words surprised me and made my chest tight. I had never thought of my smile as something that could belong to anyone else. It was part of my face, my heart, my way of living. Still, I did not want to hurt him, so I said, "I don't want you to feel that way. What do you want me to do?" He hesitated, then said, "Maybe you could be a little more careful with it. Don't smile so much at other men. Don't be so open with everyone. Keep something just for me." That night, as I lay in bed, I stared at the ceiling and felt torn. I wanted him to feel safe and loved. But the idea of hiding my smile, of holding it back, made me feel like I could not fully breathe. Still, I told myself it was only a small change. Just a little care, nothing more. I did not know that this small step was the beginning of a long, slow silence. Over the next months, I began to notice myself changing. When a man came into the shop and tried to make friendly conversation, I kept my answers short. I pressed my lips together when I wanted to smile. When customers made jokes, I gave only a small, polite curve of my mouth. My laughter became quieter, shorter. I told myself I was doing this for love, for peace, for Daniel's heart. But something inside me started to ache. Friends noticed first. One day, my coworker Lily looked at me with concern and said, "You don't smile like you used to, Emily. Are you okay?" I quickly said I was just tired. I did not know how to explain that I was slowly hiding parts of myself, tucking them away like fragile things in a drawer. At home, my mother watched me carefully. She saw how quiet I became, how often I checked my phone, waiting for messages, how I sometimes came home with red eyes. One evening, as we washed dishes together, she gently touched my arm and said, "Sweetheart, your smile is different these days. It looks controlled, forced. Has something happened?" I wanted to say everything. I wanted to tell her about the way Daniel's words curled around my heart like a soft rope, tightening slowly, never sharply enough to scream, but enough to make it hard to breathe. Instead, I only shook my head and said, "I'm fine, Mum, just a bit stressed." But my voice did not sound like my own. Meanwhile, Daniel's requests continued. They were never shouted. They came in calm, careful sentences. "I don't like it when you laugh so loud in public. Please don't talk so warmly to that man again. Why did you smile at the bus driver like that? I wish you were more quiet when we are with others. I want your soft side just for me." Slowly, my world grew smaller. I began to doubt myself. Before, my smile had been a simple thing, a natural part of my day. Now, each time I smiled, I asked myself, "Is this okay? Will he be hurt? Will he be angry later?" I started to feel guilty for every moment of warmth I shared with anyone else. The worst part was that he still said he loved my smile. He told me, when we were alone, "You are most beautiful when you smile just for me." In those moments, his eyes were full of affection, and his hands were gentle. I wanted to believe that this was love, that love sometimes asked for small sacrifices. I wanted to think I was doing something noble by changing for him. But deep inside, another voice whispered, "If he really loves you, why does he want to make you smaller?" That small voice grew louder one snowy evening in winter. I had stayed late at the shop, helping an older couple choose warm coats. They were sweet and grateful, and when they left, the old woman took my hand and said, "Thank you, dear. Your smile is like sunshine in this cold weather." Her words made my eyes sting with sudden tears. I had not heard such open praise in a long time, and it reminded me of who I used to be. When I stepped outside, Daniel was waiting for me as usual. We walked in silence for a while, our breath forming small clouds in the cold air. Finally, he said, "I saw you through the window. You were smiling a lot for that old man." His voice was calm, but there was something tight beneath it. I stopped walking. Snowflakes landed on my hair and shoulders. My heart began to pound. I thought about the old woman's kind words. I thought about my mother's worried eyes. I thought about my father's belief that a smile is a gift, not a weapon. "Daniel," I said quietly, "they were just an old couple. They were kind. I was kind, that is all." He looked at me, his eyes dark. "You don't understand," he said. "When you give that same warm smile to everyone, I feel like you're giving away pieces of yourself. I don't want to share you with the world." I held my breath for a moment, then asked softly, "But Daniel, do you love me? Or do you only love the parts of me you can control?" The words surprised even me. They came from that small, brave place inside that had been silent for too long. He stared at me, hurt and angry. "That's not fair," he said. "I just want to feel safe. I'm afraid of losing you." I felt tears rise in my eyes, but I kept my voice calm. "I understand fear," I said. "Everyone is afraid of something. But love should not ask us to hide our own light. Love should not try to silence the things that make us who we are. We stood there in the falling snow, not touching, our breaths hanging in the cold air between us. I saw in his face that he did not see it the way I did. In his mind, his requests were proof of love, proof that he cared too much. In my mind, they were slowly killing something gentle and true inside me. Over the next days, I thought deeply. At work, as I folded clothes and greeted customers, I listened to my own heart. I asked myself simple questions in simple words. Am I happy? Do I feel free? When I smile, do I feel joy? Or do I feel fear? The answers were quiet but clear. I was not happy. I did not feel free. My smile, once natural and open, now felt like something I had to protect from the very person who said he loved it most. One evening, I sat with my father in the living room. He was reading, and I was just staring at the window, watching the light fade. Finally, I asked him, "Dad, what would you do if someone said they loved the best part of you but then asked you to hide it?" He closed his book and looked at me with those gentle, wise eyes I had known all my life. "I would ask myself," he said slowly, "if that is really love or just fear dressed as love. Love should help you become more yourself, not less." He reached out and touched my hand. "Emily, your smile has always been your gift to the world. Don't let anyone wrap it up and lock it away." That night, I knew what I had to do, even though my heart trembled. The next day, I asked Daniel to meet me at the small park near my home. It was where we had once sat laughing under the green trees in spring. Now the branches were bare, and the ground was covered with thin frost. We sat on a bench, and for a moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, I took a deep breath and said, "Daniel, I care about you. I know you are afraid of being hurt. I know you want to feel special, but I cannot keep trying to make you feel safe by breaking myself into smaller pieces." He frowned, his hands clenched together. "What are you saying?" he asked. "I'm saying," I answered, my voice shaking but steady, "that my smile is part of who I am. It belongs to me. It belongs to my family, my friends, the strangers who need a small light in their day. I cannot give it to you alone. And I cannot live with someone who tries, slowly, gently, to silence it." He argued, gently at first, then with more emotion. He said I was overreacting, that he only wanted to protect our love. He said the world was dangerous, that people might misunderstand my kindness. But the more he spoke, the clearer I felt inside. I realized that I had spent months trying to protect his feelings, while my own feelings were growing thin and tired. Tears slid down my cheeks, but I did not look away. I told him that love should be big enough to hold both his fears and my light, and if it could not, then it was not the kind of love I needed. In the end, there was nothing left to say. We sat in silence, two people who had walked far together and now stood at different doors. When I finally stood up to leave, he whispered, "So this is it?" I nodded slowly. "Yes," I said. "I need to be with someone who loves my smile and never asks me to hide it." Walking away from him felt like walking through deep water. Every step was heavy and my chest hurt. But at the same time, somewhere deep inside, a small flame began to burn more brightly. It was the flame of the girl I used to be, the girl who smiled easily and freely, without fear of who might be watching. In the weeks that followed, I cried often. I missed the good parts of Daniel, the way he listened, the way he sometimes made me laugh, the quiet evenings we spent together. But I also began to notice something else. Each day as I went to work, my smile returned a little more. At first, it was small and careful, like a bird learning to fly again. But as customers came and went, and I shared gentle jokes and warm greetings, the smile grew stronger. One day, a little boy came into the shop with his mother. He dropped his toy and looked like he might cry. I bent down, picked it up, and gave it back to him with a big, playful smile. He smiled back, shy but bright. In that small exchange, I felt something inside me heal. My smile, my simple, warm smile, had done something good again, without fear or guilt. At home, my mother said, "There she is. I can see my Emily again." My father nodded and said, "Your smile is back in your eyes too, not just on your lips." I realized then that my smile had never truly been just about my mouth. It had always come from deeper inside, from my hope, my kindness, my belief that small, gentle things still mattered in this world. Now, when I think of Daniel, I do not hate him. I understand that he was afraid, that his love was mixed with old wounds and deep insecurities. But I also know that understanding someone's pain does not mean you have to stay in a place that hurts you. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for both yourself and the other person is to walk away and let them face their shadows alone. I learned that year that real love does not ask you to put a lock on your laughter or a curtain over your smile. Real love stands beside you in the bright light, proud of the way you shine. Real love says, I am glad the world gets to see what I see. My name is Emily. I still work at the little clothing shop on the corner. I still walk through the tree-lined streets in the morning and drink tea with my parents at the kitchen table. Many things in my life are the same as before, but one thing is different. I will never again let someone tell me that my kindness, my warmth, or my smile must be hidden to make them feel safe. He once said he loved my smile, and then he slowly tried to silence it. For a while, I almost let him. But in the end, my smile stayed. It lived through the quiet control, through the soft criticism, through the gentle requests that were actually chains. It survived. And now, when I smile, I do it freely, knowing it is mine, knowing it is my way of saying to the world, I am still here. I am still me.